Hello, welcome back. A few weeks ago I found this in a second-hand bookstore. It's called Carlucci's Edge and it's a science fiction novel. However, I soon realised it's book number 2 of a trilogy, and I thought it'd be pretty silly to read book number 2 before reading book number 1. So I recently purchased book number 1, which looks like this. It's called Destroying Angel. Great cover. I really like the cover. This was published in the early 90s and it's a cyberpunk novel, and it's set in a future San Francisco in America, which I like. It's been compared to Blade Runner, and it is similar to Blade Runner. However, I wouldn't quite say that the quality is up next to Blade Runner, as you'll soon find out. The basic premise of the story is that dead bodies keep showing up around San Francisco. Usually 2 bodies, and they're kind of chained together at the ankles and the wrists. And sometimes they've got tattoos in their nostrils of angel wings, which is very odd. The main protagonist, which is a man called Lewis Tanner, who's an ex-police officer, teams up with a man called Carlucci, who is a police officer, and they basically try to find the killer. And to do so, they try to get information from a gangster in a place called the Tenderloin, which is a really rough part of the city. Okay, that's the basic premise of the story, and the whole novel is basically these 2 men trying to track down the killer any way they can. Okay. It's like a classic layout for a story. It's like a classic crime, neo-noir, cyberpunk thriller, basically. Okay. Now, the prose of this book is very gritty. It's very neo-noir, as I've said. The prose is very lucid. It's very easy to read, which is good. I appreciated that. And there are certain sections of the book that felt really good quality. I was reading it and I thought, yeah, you know, I feel like I'm in the scene. I'm enjoying this. It feels like a good quality book. However, after finishing it, I'm left feeling as though the book kind of lacked something. It lacked a certain quality. The characters were semi-believable. I felt like I didn't quite connect with them fully. The author did this thing. If you ask most people advice, if you're a writer and you ask for advice, most people would tell you that you shouldn't describe your characters too much. Leave a certain amount to the imagination, certain people would say. Don't describe your characters too much. I think that's true, but I also kind of like it when authors describe their characters fully to me. I want to know what the characters look like, and I want to know what the author thinks that they look like. I personally haven't got a problem with overly describing characters, and I think that would have helped this novel. If the characters would have been described to me more, you know, tell me what colour hair they have. Tell me what build they have. Just tell me what they look like. I found myself wanting that as I was reading this book. Certain elements were a little bit farcical as well. Like a certain point in the story, the main protagonist needed a doctor and he needed a computer hacker. And it just so happened that, you know, both of his friends in the story were those things, and they did those jobs. A little bit farcical. Quite often as well, there are loads of scenes where people are walking through tunnels or crawling through tunnels. I mean, okay, like this city has got loads of tunnels underneath it and stuff. It's kind of part of the story, but it's just too many tunnel descriptions for my liking. And a little bit of a spoiler alert here. If you're going to read the book, kind of skip this part. But there's a big fight scene at the end, and it's like, you know, as I've said, the whole book is about these two characters hunting down this character, this killer, and that's like the big point of the story. So you're kind of expecting a big showdown at the end. But when the showdown came, it was like a bit of an anticlimax for me. That didn't go down well. Also, there are a couple of things that I didn't find out as well. I don't know whether I'm going to find these out in book number 2 or what, but I didn't find out why they've got tattoos in their nostrils, like these dead bodies. And also, there's a part of the city that's called the Core. And this is like the most dangerous part of the city. And there's a description of this like Italian opera singer who's in the Core for some weird unknown reason. And you just don't find out why. Maybe it's in book number 2. I hope so. I hope I find out in book number 2. But I don't know at the moment after finishing book number 1. It's all a bit strange. And you know, the author is Richard Paul Russo. This is book number 2. I haven't read this yet, but he says on the cover here that he's a Philip K. Dick award-winning author. I don't know how. So I'm being a bit harsh here, but you know, his writing isn't that good. Unless it gets better in this book, I might read book number 2 and be completely blown away by the prose and the storyline and everything. I don't know, but after reading book number 1, I'm kind of wondering how this man won a Philip K. Dick Award. It's a bit strange, but there you go. Thanks for making it to the halfway point of this video. This is just a quick message to let you know that I have a range of fiction books, mainly science fiction and horror, which are available at all main retailers, most of which are free. The links for these books are below. Check them out if you so wish. Thank you, and back to the video. Another thing that struck me after reading this book, this is a science fiction novel published in the early 90s, right? And of course, there are loads of cyborgs running around, and you've got all this crazy technology and stuff. But it seems to me that most science fiction writers of the 20th century completely failed to predict the one thing, the one piece of technology that's completely taken over the world, right? And that's smartphones. There are no smartphones in this novel. People have got pagers. People use phone boxes. There are magazines and newspapers, and there's actually a scene where somebody uses cassette tapes. But nobody predicts smartphones, and it's like the one thing that's kind of taken over the world. It's the one thing that's taken over the 21st century, isn't it? Smartphones. It's like the number one big invention. Look, smartphones annoy me. On an average day, they annoy me. I hate the way that people drive whilst using their smartphone. I hate the way that people use them in coffee shops. I hate the way that people play videos on them with the volume turned up. I hate the way that they're just so distracting. Don't get me wrong, I'm using a smartphone now to make this bloody video. You know, I'm not a hypocrite. I use them. I use a smartphone every day, but I don't know. They annoy me for the most part, and it makes me wonder whether, you know, people are just going to get more and more hooked on them. So, some of my short stories are based on this, you know, what's going to happen with smartphones. But it's just a little observation to finish up with there. A lot of very insightful 20th century science fiction novels have all of these great insights, all of this very advanced technology, but some of them have smartphones or something that resembles smartphones, but for the most part they don't. Most people didn't predict them, so something to think about there. Overall, it's quite a bad review for Destroying Angel. It didn't really blow me away, but maybe book number 2 will, and I'll let you know, okay? Thanks for watching this review. I'll be back in about 2 weeks or so with another book review. In the meantime, try to have a good day on this dystopian, neo-noir, cyberpunk rock we call Earth. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.